Hello everyone, welcome back to part 6 of the series where I rank every single Studio Series Transformer. And we'll just jump right into it. And the first thing I'm gonna do is move down the World War II Bumblebee, because one of my commenters said that the vehicle mode isn't even accurate, which is quite disappointing because it is a shell former, so they could have really made any vehicle mode, and despite that they chose to not be accurate. So I'll move him down behind Megatron. I do think the Megatron mold is better than this just in general. And now let's rank the next 10 Studio Series Transformers. We will start off with one of the best Studio Series robot modes ever. Studio Series 56 Shockwave is so beautiful. The robot mode is perfect, and it has the presence, the beauty, and the coolness. The robot mode is literally everything that you want. The sculpting is amazing, and the paint on the official one is really good. I really like that dry brushing effect. It is amazing. It's so fun to look at and so fun to play with. It is one of my favorites. The only issue really is just the alt mode not being much, but I can forgive it. It works a lot better than some other figures in my opinion. And so overall, it is a very, very nice looking figure. And it is definitely worth picking up. I am so glad that they're reissuing this figure. The aftermarket prices for this is insane. I don't know why this guy is so expensive now. But yeah, I definitely recommend him, especially with the reissue coming up. Just get that. It is, not gonna lie, the best robot mode in the entirety of Studio Series. And just because of that, I feel like that carries the whole figure all the way up to the S tier. Even though the lack of a proper alt mode is present, the robot mode just looks too good not to put up here. In my previous part, I mentioned that I had no desire to get a Bumblebee. And maybe it's because he is just so overdone and it is kind of boring to me now. Most of them just follow the same transformation steps and there's not really much difference between each one. But the Studio Series 57 Off-Road Bumblebee is different. It looks so cool. I love that robot mode and it just seems so fun to mess around with. And the transformation is so unique. The engineering is so good, and it's fascinating how they could pull off this with barely any kibble. The Jeep mode is something that I really like as well. I think it's cute. And so overall, it is a very clean and sleek figure. In addition to that, it is very fun and it just looks really good in both modes from any angle. I would love to have this figure in my collection. And so I feel like this will be the first deluxe class in A tier. I will put him at the end for now, but he might move later on. Now we have the start of a very iconic trio. I have no hate towards them as character designs, but I'm just put off by the figures. I don't know why, but I think it's the insane scalping and all the secondhand market prices of all of them. But the toy itself is pretty cool. I really like the appearance of Studio Series 58 Roadbuster, and I think the car mode is very unique and very cool. I do think it is a solid figure, and I don't really see any issues with it. I really like the robot mode, but if I had to nitpick, the backpack might be a bit too big for my liking, and it does seem pretty intrusive. And on top of that, the transformation is apparently pretty difficult due to all the tight clearances. But as a whole, it's a pretty solid figure, but it's definitely not worth the price now. Regardless, he will go at the end of B tier. It's such a shame that I'll never own any of the Wreckers. Dropkick's second figure was a drastic improvement over his first. And does that also hold true with his partner, Shatter? Of course, anything is better than that. But Studio Series 59 Shatter itself is really good. It looks so cool, and they managed to get the car chest better than the original, despite it transforming into a jet. The robot mode definitely has the aura of Shatter, and it feels like her. It is just so menacing and so cool. The only issue I really have is the massive backpack. It is one of the biggest I've seen, especially in relation to the size of the robot itself. I know it's accurate, but it was definitely not the same size as her body. But I guess it's forgivable. There was no way they could have pulled this design off in this scale. And it does serve the amazing jet mode. The jet mode is so sleek and so clean. It's a very unique jet mode too. It's not wider like what you see with Starscream, Thundercracker, or Nitro Zeus. It's more sleek, more thin, and it's very unique. I'm surprised about how unique it is. And so this figure is amazing in both modes, with just very minor nitpicks. It's another figure that I want to get, but I never will. It's another figure that's scalped to the ends of the earth. And so I think Shatter belongs also in B tier. And I do think Shatter's better than Roadbuster and Scavenger. This Constructicon is pretty good, but I just feel like there's something wrong with the Studio Series 60 Scrapper. Maybe it's the fact that he just doesn't match his concept art, or that his vehicle stands out because it's not flat and it is a bit of a mess. But I don't know, I just can't put my finger on it. It has a solid robot mode, a solid vehicle mode too, and there's really no objective negatives about him, besides the lacking posability. But just the vibes are off with this figure. That's just my opinion. You guys might love it, and it's completely understandable. There's nothing negative I could point out about this. And yeah, I do admit, it is another Constructicon that does definitely stand alone, and I do think it looks cool. I do think they definitely pulled it off. I'm just not a fan of him. And so I actually think he's not as good as a Hightower, to be honest. I'll put him right here, right behind Hightower. When I think of Studio Series, I think of fun, cool, and accurate looking toys. But the main thing I think about is the horrible overpricing of the secondary market. You guys have seen that already with some of the previous few Transformers. It is terrible and I hate it. And this figure is the epitome of this concept. It's such a shame that Studio Series 61 Sentinel Prime is so expensive because it looks really good. The sculpting and the presence is amazing and he just looks so cool. The robot mode has that aura and it looks so beautiful. I don't know how to put it into words, but he is amazing in terms of appearance. The only downsides though are just his lack of a shield and the pretty poor posability. I do understand the stiff cape. There's nothing you can really do to engineer that properly without just giving him a replacement cape. And the reason why I've been glazing this figure a lot is because I have a lot of nostalgia for this toy. Before I got into Transformers at Age of Extinction, I actually got the Cyberverse Sentinel Prime figure. I didn't even know what Transformers were at the time. I was just playing with that figure a lot. And so, once I started getting into Transformers, I have always wanted a Sentinel Prime figure. And this definitely satisfies that. I also love the vehicle mode. It's so boxy and it's just so satisfying to hold and so fun to play with. It is a very unique alt mode as well, so I do appreciate that. And so I will have no choice but to put him pretty high because he was my childhood. It is really unfortunate that he's this expensive though, and I will put him above Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime. The Studio Series 51 Soundwave was a really good figure, but this version is so much worse. He looks so plain and boring. The satellite mode doesn't even transform. It doesn't even look like a satellite mode. He's just literally doing a really big hip thrust. The original toy actually did it much better. The only positives about him is I like the blue circle on the chest. And I guess the robot mode's appearance is okay. It is pretty clean with no kibble, but that's a given because there's basically no transformation anyways. And I also appreciate that they do give him a stand. But yeah, this figure, even if I saw it for like $5, I would not get him. I feel like it's not even a Transformer and more so of a action figure. In my opinion, I think he belongs in F, but at the top of F. Here we have the second Wrecker to ever be released. And in my opinion, I think it's the worst one, just appearance-wise. I'm not really a big fan of the gangly, spindly proportions with that massive arm kibble on top of that. I do think the arm kibble is accurate to the design to some extent, but besides that, there's nothing really that wrong with the robot mode. And the car mode, just like with Roadbuster, is amazing. I just love how these vehicle modes look. They are so cool. And so, even though there's nothing really wrong with him, I'm just not a fan of the design. I prefer Roadbuster's design a lot more, but I do admit Topspin does have a smaller backpack. But that's probably due to the kibble being on his arms. And I do think it's still a pretty good figure. I'll put him in between Lockdown and Cogman. Studio Series 64 Cliffjumper was a figure that I didn't really care about upon initial release. My first impressions of it was that it was a pretty big shell former and it had a very big backpack. Also, it does not hold together that well and the car mode looks a bit weird to me, sort of like a computer mouse. But now, after many years, I do sort of want him. I don't know why, I just feel a special charm towards this mold. It seems to be pretty fun to play with, and it did sort of grow on me. The car mode also grew on me. It still looks like a mouse, don't get me wrong, but whenever I think about this figure, I just imagine holding it in my hand like a mouse and using it like a mouse. It would feel pretty satisfying, not gonna lie. I know that's a dumb reason to put him higher than he should be, but he just seems fun. And so I will put him up above Hightower, I think. Yeah, I'll put him above Hightower. Before we get to the last Transformer, I will move some stuff around just a bit. And so with Bone Crusher, I'll put him down to the top of C because even though I like the character a lot, the figure is a bit too simplistic for my taste, and the engineering on it does feel old. It doesn't really feel like modern engineering. And I will also move Stinger down to the top of D tier. Basically, for a very similar reason to Bone Crusher, now with all the amazing and really accurate Transformers, Stinger doesn't really compare in comparison to all of these. I saw this figure so much in store for such a long time as well. I regret not getting him, not because I like the figure, but because he's so expensive now. There is no chance I'm getting him nowadays. The robot mode looks amazing, and they pulled it off really well. He looks really cool as a design and as a toy. He just looks so intimidating and so menacing. The jet mode is not accurate and it is an entirely different jet to what was seen in the movie. But in my opinion, I don't really mind. It still looks good, but maybe the cockpit is a tad too big. But I don't know, I'm not really interested in him. I do recognize that it's a great figure, but I just don't want to get him. Maybe it's because of the insane price, or maybe because I already have the amazing Bumblebee movie Tetrajet mold, which basically looks the same as the Blitzwing in robot mode anyways. Maybe that's why I don't have any urge to get this Blitzwing. And so I will put him pretty high. I still think he deserves a really high spot. However, I have heard about some QC issues or some issues with the transformation. I'm not too sure if that's real or not. So if you guys have him and you're aware of any issues, just let me know. I will leave him right before Studio Series 5 Optimus Prime. Here is the tier list so far for part 6 of my series. Thank you guys for watching, and I really appreciate your support. And same thing as always, if you want me to move things around, just let me know in the comments section below. Thank you all for watching.